In the 1930s, Porsche was asked to help develop a model for the people of Germany by the German government, what would later become the Volkswagen Beetle. It never left a strong position within the government and eventually was yet again asked, this time in the late 1930s, to help the government. This time for the development of various car models and tanks for the Nazis. Porsche helped developing the Volkswagen Kübelwagen, for example, which was designated for the German Wehrmacht und Waffen-SS. It was called the Type 62 in the earlier stages and Type 82 as the last development. This model was the best made model, with around 50,000 units made between 1940 and 1945. Porsche also helped developing the Schwimmwagen, an amphibious vehicle also known as Type 166. The Schwimmwagen was made a bit less, with around 15,500 units made, of around 1,300 were made by Porsche itself between 1942 and 1944. The Schwimmwagen had a top speed of 80 km an hour on land and 10 km an hour in the water. The last car Porsche made for the Nazis was the Type 87 Kommandeurswagen, a Volkswagen Beetle with modifications for off-roading with the speed up to 80 km an hour, built between 1941 and 1944. A total of 546 units of this model were made. The technical specifications for all of the vehicles were the same, as they were all equipped with the same 1.1 liter engine that produced 25 horsepower and a top speed of around 80 km an hour. As said earlier, Porsche also helped with the development of tanks, as they started making tank prototypes for the Nazis in the late 1930s up to the end of the war in 1945. The name of these vehicles also always started with VK, which meant Versuchskonstruktion, or Versuchskraftfahrzeug, meaning research or experimental vehicle in German. Eventually, many of the tanks never reached production due to the negative effects of the Second World War for Germany because of the building materials that were becoming more rare as the war progressed. The story all starts in the late 1930s when 4 different companies were approached by the Nazis: MAN, Henschel, Daimler-Benz and Porsche. The tanks eventually each were given the first letter of the brand's name. For example, the VK3001 with the P for Porsche, the H for Henschel, the M for MAN and the D for Daimler-Benz. Porsche's influence began in the early 1940s. It all starts with the VK3001B, which was a prototype made by Porsche in 1941. It was one of the 2 projects under the VK3001 program, with the other company being Henschel, which made the VK3001H. The prototype of Porsche eventually was made 2 times and later progressed to further developments of the VK4501B. The prototypes were made turretless and never reached production. The tank had turrets from 7.5 up to 10.5 centimeters and were powered by 2 10-liter V10s made by Porsche with 210 horsepower each, called the Porsche Type 100, and would be able to reach speeds up to 60 km an hour. The VK3001H made by Henschel, however, was made 4 times between 1940 and 1942. Porsche's further developments for the Nazis followed up in 1941 for the VK4501P, also known as the Porsche's Tiger. This tank was designed by Porsche, having an 8.8 cm turret mounted on top. Porsche worked on updating the VK3001P, which was a medium tank, Porsche's medium tank prototype, and adapted parts on it used for the new tank. The VK4501P was powered by 2 15-liter 10-cylinder Porsche Type 101 engines, producing 306 horsepower each, giving a top speed of 35 km an hour, weighing 60 tons. While it was easy to have quality copper to build a single prototype, once series production began, this became more difficult as the war progressed. These problems and the fact that trials proved the tank to be less maneuverable than its competitor were the reason Henschel's identically armed and more conventional VK4501H H1 prototype, which eventually became the Tiger I, went into production instead. Eventually the VK4501P was used for other tanks made by Porsche, such as the Elephant and the VK4502. After two prototypes that went into production, Porsche didn't give up to competing Henschel yet, as they then developed a new, more conventional version of the VK4501P, called the VK4502, in 1942. This project had two different versions, each providing different features, such as the Vorne or A version with the turret at the front and the Hinter or B, with the turret mounted on the rear side of the tank. The tank was either powered by two Porsche Type 101 or Type 103 engines, producing 670 horsepower in total for 57 tons, giving the tank a top speed of 38 km an hour. Eventually 3 units of the Hinter version were made. Thanks so much for watching. If you don't want to miss out on any future videos, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. And also check out these videos in this playlist with a lot of interesting details and history. And I will see you in the next video.